GT America, powered by AWS, kicks off its 2022 season with a street party here in the middle of downtown St. Petersburg, Florida. 27 GT2, GT3, and GT4 cars are set to take the green flag, and a brand new season of SRO America's single driver sprint race format that today embarks on its second season. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine State. Beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida has played gracious host to GT America, powered by AWS. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and Amanda Busick is in the pit lane. It is a pleasure to have your company and welcome you to a track, Cal, that some call America's Monaco, and it's for views like these that the moniker has given rise.
Spectacular. I've been coming here since 1985. The track configuration has obviously changed several times over those years, but just a wonderful setting. Great to get our season started here, and what a showcase of GT machinery we have on board for today's race.
27 cars across 3 classes, sort of 4. We'll touch on that in a moment, but standing amongst them is our own Amanda Busick. Amanda?
Hey guys, well, we're just going down here on pit lane, and I'm going to focus on the top 4 cars on the grid, starting with Jason Harwood in that 4th position. You guys, you know he got kind of hot there at the end of last season. He's still knocking on the door of the first win. So I asked Jason earlier prior to this race, is today the day? Well, his plan is to be the leader after turn 1 here. So you know Jason's going to try to get aggressive up early. Also want to point out George Kurtz. He's going to start 3rd on the grid today. George, if you remember last year, he was the first ever winner in the GT America Series powered by AWS, and with it being an AWS race, I'm sure George wants to show out here as well. And then moving to the top 2 cars on the field, you have Scott Smithson. It's his first street course. He finds this track intimidating, yet visually stimulating and technically satisfying. And then you have Jason Daskalos on the pole. It's his first pole position back racing. He took a 6-year hiatus, came back last year. He finished on podium in Nashville. He said he can keep the Audi out front if he survives turn 1. So all eyes are on there as we get started here for the first race of the GT America Series powered by AWS.
Thanks so much, Amanda, and so much conversation pre-race is about turn 1, lap 1, Calvin, and for good reason. This place has a history of some chaos at the start of races.
Well, it's really tricky when you come down into turn 1 because it's part of the airfield runway there, so you've got these painted stripes, and all of these cars in this field have ABS, and if one wheel suddenly locks up, it takes away your braking ability. So to manage that on relatively cold tires, it's nearly 80 degrees ambient out there right now, so they're not going to be too cold, but still the tire pressures won't be up. It's going to be tricky to negotiate through there and stay unscathed.
How about Jason Harwood? He starts 4th. Amanda says he wants to lead out of turn 1. We see aggression pay off in that corner sometimes. Can it be done?
Well, I think he's got to certainly be patient because you need to funnel through there safely and get this 40-minute race underway. But he's a little bit out of position. He had a GPS sensor issue in the qualifying session that was disrupted for a red flag for Jeff Burton, who had a moment over in turn 5. So when they went back to green, Jason wasn't allowed to go back on the racetrack. He sits 4th. He was one of the fastest cars here yesterday. So there may be some added frustration inside that helmet here for the green flag today.
It's an interesting venue. This, of course, a temporary circuit using part of the airport runway, the Albert Whitted airfield that forms the front straightaway as well as the pit lane, and then dives into the city streets. Most of the series here this weekend actually paddock outside of the racetrack, just beyond that wall on the left-hand side of the pit straight. That's where the cars were coming from, then driving counter course, which you don't see very often, into the pit lane here for the grid, and pretty soon we'll send them on their way for a 40-minute sprint through the streets of St. Petersburg. Talking about street course racing, this is not a discipline that many of the drivers in this field have a great deal of experience in doing. You do, however, Calvin. What makes a street course a particular challenge?
Well, it's very intimidating. If you haven't experienced one before, you see these walls on the outside, you're typically steering away from those. That really minimizes your radius. So if you're carrying too much speed and you get scared of those walls, the car's not going to like it, and you're going to go for a spin, and typically there's contact. But once you get that settled down, and talking to a lot of the drivers today who had those 2 45-minute practice sessions yesterday, the ability to sleep on it, just process the information, come back out this morning for a qualifying session, but now it's a totally different kettle of fish because now you're in race conditions. That obviously ramps things up as well, but just really recognizing where the grip is, where the bumps are, where the off-camber sections are, where the track is dirty, and the grip level is going to change throughout the course of this race as well.
Complicating matters. This is not a single make kind of series. This is in fact multi-class racing. We talked a lot about the GT3 field so far, but you also have one GT2 car, which is wicked fast in a straight line,
Right.
doesn't have a ton of downforce, so will give some of that speed up in the corners. And then the GT4 cars, which are a step below, less downforce, less sophisticated aerodynamics and traction control, ABS, those kinds of things, but still beautifully prepped and totally professional race cars in their own right. And within the GT4 class, because there is a brand new car here this weekend, 2 Porsches, the new version of the Cayman, are racing, but they're not totally homologated yet by the SRO. That's why you'll see them racing as an invitational class here this weekend.
Yeah, and they've been very quick. They basically have no performance parameters put on them. So Adam Adelson and Rob Holland have qualified slightly faster than the rest of the GT4 field that is obviously in homologated machinery. But it really gives the chance for the series to look at that new Porsche Cayman, see how it fares against the current crop of machinery, and then make the adjustments as we get to the second round of the third and fourth round of the championships over in Sonoma in April.
And with the championship in mind, the series has made an adjustment to the regulations, allowing drivers to drop a couple of events, obviously for the 2 invitational Caymans that intended to contest for the championship. These will be the events that they drop, but it is a way to at least allow them to participate with a new car and not put them on a back foot as far as the championship is concerned moving forward. More stories from down in the pit lane with Amanda.
Well, since we're flowing over to the GT4 guys, I'm at the top of the grid here with them. Our champ from last season, Jason Bell, ended up in P2 to kick off the day. And guys, he told us in qualifying, he has over 100 people here. It's a home track for Jason. So not only does he have that pressure coming into the weekend, but he also has the pressure of being the champion last season. I talked to Jason prior to the race and I asked him, what wins this race here this weekend? And as the guys at the front said, it's going to be eyes on turn number 1. I know you guys are going to dive into the paint that's on the front stretch. They're hoping that the Indy Lights cars that were on the track prior may have doled some of that paint out so they can find more grip. But turn 1, all eyes are going to be on it. And for Jason to lead this race, well, he's got to get past that guy, and that is Chris Cagnazzi that's on the pole in the GT4 class.
Great qualifying effort from Chris and also from Jason. We talked about it being a hometown guy from Tampa Bay, a graduate of the University of South Florida, which is located in Tampa Bay as well, and has a lot of friends, family, and business colleagues here. Amanda touched on those painted lines, and we see that on street courses, but it's perhaps more prominent here because of the airport runway. There has been a lot of track activity today, though, Calvin. How much does the rubber accumulating on those painted stripes help with the grip level being a bit more consistent when you cross over?
It will help. It will definitely help. And as the weekend goes on, as we get to tomorrow's race, it should certainly be a little bit better as well with IndyCar on the racetrack this afternoon. But even so, that first corner is going to be really tricky. Remember, these guys are coming through a long off season. Yes, some of the teams have been out testing, getting some track time, 2 practice sessions yesterday, but suddenly get down into turn 1 and that big funneling effect, that big compression of the field down through the apex area there. You really, really have to be careful. It's a 40-minute sprint race. We do not want to afford to lose any of this event time here. So I think that's the first priority on everyone's mind. Get off to a nice clean start here for the championship season.
Great to see Ziad Gondor back in the championship. Ran a partial season a year ago for TR3. This team's been busy. They've already raced down in Daytona in the 24 hours earlier this year, back in January, and had a pretty good showing, showed good pace.
They did. They actually put their car on the pole in the new Pro class over there. So, they've got great history. Remember back in 2017, I think it was, with Mancinelli, they surprised everyone with this bright yellow Ferrari. No one knew anything about the team, the driver. What did they do? Put the car on the pole. So they're a top-notch level operation.
Located in Davie, Florida, not too far away, so they view this as a home field to some degree, that's for sure. What a great looking field of cars, and tucked in there you can kind of see the bright yellow popping out. 4th car in line on the right hand side, that is the Callaway Corvette, back for the first time racing on North American shores since 2018.
And it was quick here. Had a runner-up finish here with Daniel Kylewicz. So the car is very quick. A little bit longer in the tooth now. We're running up against some of this more Evo-style machinery that we're seeing with the Mercedes there on the front row alongside. Having said that, the Audi is not a current breed. It's not even got the Ultra kit on that, so it's one of the old ones. But even so, that's what's great about this championship. You can really mix and match so many of this GT machinery and bring it together and put on a great show.
Oh, so much enthusiasm for the championship. The grids are growing, and I think we can view that in a lot of respects as a preamble of what's to come when the SRO America season begins in earnest in Sonoma. All of the news out of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, the top category under the SRO America umbrella is for massive growth. Pirelli GT4 America going from strength to strength. We're seeing the strength of this series here. The touring car is always strong. It's going to be a festival of speed everywhere SRO America shows up this year.
We had a great championship season in 2021, and this year looks even brighter. So much momentum, particularly in the GT3 class and GT4. That was so strong last year anyway. It's going to be a little bit better, but GT3, boy, looking at some of the entries for this year is going to be sensational.
3 different teams in the first 3 spots on the grid, with the pole sitter Jason Daskalos with his eponymous team, Daskalos Motorsports, then Scott Smithson, DXDT Racing starting alongside. Row number 2, George Kurtz moving over to Riley Motorsports this year with that familiar CrowdStrike livery. Zalus Motorsports and Jason Harward starting 4th. Justin Wetherill, a newcomer to the championship with Ferrari Challenge experience, starts 5th. DXDT driver owner David Askew starts 6th. Then it's Gondor, who we talked about earlier, and the Callaway Corvette of German Mirko Schultes. Then we get to the GT4 field. Adam Adelson on pole alongside Rob Holland. Those are the invitational cars that are not the fully homologated new spec Porsche GT4s. Behind them, the official GT4 pole sitter, Chris Cognazzi, who won in race 2 at Nashville. Jason Bell, the hometown hero, alongside Brian Putt and Derek DeBoer starting in row 7. Jeff Burton, one of the GT3 runners, all the way back in row 8. He had an incident in qualifying that cost him his fastest lap, so that's why he's mired so far back, but he's been fast all weekend. He'll be joined by newcomer to this championship, Moisey Uretsky, Gray Newell and Chris Gumbrecht behind them. Then Marco Radisic making a return with Ross Schwest, Paul Sparta, Todd Coleman, Sean Whalen, and CJ Moses in the lone GT2 car in the field. Nick Shanny, Custodio Toledo, and Rick Euler make up the rest of the field, but problems here for Nick Shanny, scheduled to roll off in row 13, position 25, and his Toyota Supra appears to have not been able to make it out onto the field, onto the racetrack rather, with the rest of the field.
Well, unless this is a strategy move, he's towards the back of the pack. I would think he'd want to be out there trying to get a feel for it. This is his first pro race, has a lot of PCA, Porsche Club of America experience, but unless he just wants to be out of the schmozzle that we may anticipate down in turn 1 and exit pit lane and get a nice clean start. We'll have to wait and see.
We will, but we hope for the best as he makes his first foray into pro racing, like you said, PCA as well as AER experience, endurance racing. This is the Toyota Gazoo Racing customer engineer there with the laptop plugged in, and I don't think it's a strategy call when the laptop comes out. No,
they've got some kind of electronic issue there, software issue they're trying to correct before the start. Great to see Toyota here. Steve Hallam from Formula One McLaren days is now leading that whole charge for TRD, doing a wonderful job. They've sold over 20 cars now in North America here of that new Toyota GR Supra GT4 machine, so doing great things with it. And had a sensational year last year, winning in SRO competition with the AM title over in Sprint X.
It was a great program to funnel money to those that are successful running that car in multiple GT4 championships in North America. So Toyota Racing Development, Toyota Gazoo Racing really behind GT4 racing, and some exciting images of what might be a GT3 car coming from Toyota Gazoo Racing at the Tokyo Auto Show not so long ago. So watch this space. There could be some neat developments as far as that's concerned in the near future, but we'll put that aside for now because the lights are off on the safety car. Driver Mike Stillwagon about to take that Ferrari down the pit lane and turn the field over into the hands of the pole sitter Jason Daskalos in the white Audi on the left of the screen. GT3 debutant Scott Smithson starting alongside, then George Kurtz and Jason Harward, Justin Wetherill, and David Askew. That's the top 3 rows. Tom Hansing has the green flag in hand, and we are racing the first race of the season at GT America, powered by AWS.
Look to the left of the screen, down the inside, that's Jeff Burton amongst the GT4 machinery, trying to make an early move. 3 wide there, and he gets wide.
That's Cognazzi, the GT4 pole sitter. There was contact further back. It popped him up into the air, locked a wheel, and sent him careening into Burton. A couple of other cars also taken out in that melee. We stay green for the moment, however, with Daskalos leading, but Smithson putting the pressure on behind.
Everyone trying to settle in. They realize we're probably going to go full course yellow, but right now it's just green flag racing at the front of the pack now, trying to make some moves here early.
That's really disappointing for Jeff Burton because he was doing what he needed to do to clear that GT4 traffic, and he had done so only to be hit from behind by a situation that developed a little bit before that. Nice start here from Daskalos. He's pulled out a bit of a gap, and now Smithson falling into the clutches of George Kurtz. Harwood still running in fourth, right behind that brightly colored SRO Motorsports Lamborghini.
David Askew there looking down the inside of Witherall, who's on his pro racing debut as well aboard the Triazzi Ferrari there.
Rapid first lap. We await word if the turn 1 section has been cleaned up. Its scoring indicates Jeff Burton might still be there. We'll look for a yellow flag, and now it does fly. After 1 lap on the streets of St. Petersburg, Jason Daskalos holds the edge. Kurtz was putting a challenge on Smithson there, but had to break off that attack due to the full course yellow. And look at that debris field.
Yeah, Burton's car in the fence pretty heavily there, so I assumed that we were going to go full course yellow. See other cars involved. That's Brian Putt, I believe, the B Sport Racing Aston Martin.
That's heartbreaking for them. What a season Brian had last year, breaking through for his first win in Pirelli GT4 America competition, stepping out to run in GT America powered by AWS, and a lot of damage on the front of that Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT4. Derek De Boer in the bright blue Porsche Cayman. We should note that is the older generation of the Cayman, so that one is running for points here this weekend. Looks like De Boer was able to clear all of that contact in the early stages and slip up into the lead.
Yeah, did a nice job there of not getting involved. And Derek, as we know, very aggressive driver, really gets up on the wheel early in this race. Take another look here at the replay. Look in the middle of the pack. You see to the left side of the screen, there's Jeff Burton down to the inside, and in the middle of the pack, it all starts to go wrong as Nazi there just clips the rear of the 15 machine, I think it was, and then gets into the back of Burton.
Heavy impact for Burton into the tire barrier. That will need to be rearranged. Boy, that is a lot of damage on the front of the B Sport Racing car. Brian Putt, a couple of crews that are going to have a long day, long evening, and probably into the morning as well, trying to prepare for race 2 tomorrow. Wow!
I didn't see that the first time around. Now looking at it in replay, Daskalos on relatively cold tires that gets really wide through turn 3 and clouts the wall.
It was pretty flush, but that was a hard hit. What do you think?
Well, he'll certainly have felt it out. It seemed like he had pace on the remainder of the lap, so no one was really all over him like he was slowing dramatically. But that will have got his attention and woken him up.
Well, hopefully we get a look at the driver's side of that race car as they make their way through turn 1 behind the safety car here. Let's look.
Okay, pancake that wall pretty good. See that both the left front and left rear got those rub marks. Don't see any cracked rim or any damage on the wheel itself, left front and back. You know that corner well. I crashed here in an Atlantic car back in 1986. It hurts. Really high speed as you come out there. And also you lose a little bit of grip with the camber of the road there right before you get to the wall.
Now that's debris on the track right where it happened. So maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5 here, but there's a chance that is off of this Audi.
Not sure if the inner fender or something got ripped out.
What are you feeling? Sorry, Cal. What are you feeling for as a driver? Now you're under the safety car, so you're not fully at speed, but what can you do to try and assess the situation? Because when we go green, you're going to have to fire off into turn 1 with a great deal of confidence that the car is structurally sound.
Well, we were green there. Even though we had that incident down in turn 1, we remained green to get a green flag lap under our belt per the regulations. So Jason was at speed, so he'll have felt the car under braking at the end of this run here through this high-speed king down towards turn 10. And also he's been through some high-speed corners as well. And really he's just looking, is the steering still straight? Do I feel any vibration? Do I have good brake pedal? Things like that, because sometimes you can knock the upright. That can give some kickback on the pad itself in terms of the rotor and the braking pressure that you may receive and feedback that you're getting in the race car. So he'll be feeling all of those things out, also seeing if there's any alarms on in the car as well.
While we run behind the safety car, let's get another update from the pits.
Well, one guy that escaped that carnage was Derek DeBoer. Started on the GT4 grid, now up into the first place. And if you remember last year, Nashville, the street course, Derek didn't have that great of a showing. Had some wrecks there that made for a very long weekend for DeBoer. But back here this weekend, really wanted to have redemption on a street course. But all the way in the first pot, I was talking to Kevin Buckley about it, of what the idea is on the restart. And he's going to tell Derek just to go for it. There's no time to wait. Stay in the front and win this race.
Well, time will certainly be of the essence. This is a jam-packed schedule here in St. Petersburg, and so it's unlikely any time lost, should we go red or something like that, would be added to it. And already a sizable chunk of this race has been lost running behind this safety car here, and there's still a lot of work to be done. Just look at what the track crew has to contend with, all those little bits largely of carbon fiber that are out there, and those are very sharp, especially when they break off and are a real hazard.
Oh, they'll cut down a tire in a heartbeat, so you got to get the track clean. There's Jeff out of the car, so he's okay. Just looking and assessing the damage. Made the switch from Red Racing over to the Zalos Racing team. Jeff is based out of Utah, as is that team, so it's a perfect combination there. But not the start they were looking for. He's very much up on the wheel yesterday, one of the early pace setters in practice yesterday, so one of the favorites coming into today's qualifying and race, but hasn't gone his way.
Had a great year last year in many respects. It was Jeff's breakthrough year. He made the big step going from GT4 to GT3 a year ago, and both in GT World Challenge America, but especially in GT America, the single driver format, more targeted drivers of his experience level. He had a great run, ultimately finished second in the points in the overall order, just 33 behind eventual champion Charlie Luck. But didn't have a race like this one. That was a big part of his success. He was very consistent throughout the course of last year, and this is unfortunately the kind of accident, given the extent of the damage, at least looking at the car there a moment ago, you hope that the car can be repaired and he's ready to go at full strength tomorrow. Well,
that's the trouble with the doubleheader weekend. You got to do 70% to score points in today's race, and then the grid is set by the fast laps today, so he's on the back foot immediately for tomorrow. We'll start on the back, but we really thought coming into this season he's had a lot of chopping and changing. He went from an Audi to an Aston Martin to the Lamborghini, and now doing that follow-up season with the Huracan, admittedly with a different team. They could really be in the sweet spot, but this is racing. This is what we talk about, coming out of the off-season, knocking the rust off, not making those little mistakes. However, that was really nothing to do with him. He got mired in the pack and just got clipped there as a result of the GT4 cars coming together.
And there in the middle of the GT4 field is the GT2 car. CJ Moses is the driver, ran a partial season a year ago, and what a cool piece of kit that GT2 Audi is.
That is a hot rod. I mean, it is a monster on the straightaways, but through design does not have the same downforce level and package that all of the GT3 cars have, so it's a real handful to wrestle it around this street circuit. CJ does have experience here. He ran back in 2019 when the GT4 America Championship was running here, so that certainly helped, but lost that session yesterday. I had the electronic issue, had to put someone on a plane and bring in a new steering wheel overnight, and that fixed the shifting issue that they had. So these cars are very complex, and when they're going wrong, there's nothing you can do sometimes to get them sorted out.
And nothing more complex, quite possibly, as you look at a dejected Jeff Burton walking back. Great to see him walking under his own power after that big hit, but certainly disappointed. Back to the CJ Moses story. These cars, every little thing about them is made with performance in mind, but that steering wheel, it really is the neural center of a modern race car.
It really is the nerve center, and it makes everything tick, and with the paddle shifters and everything all incorporated within that, if there's one little wire is not quite working correctly, boy oh boy, it will shut everything down. And for CJ, he lost that valuable track time, but you know, he's into it for the long haul this year. Making the switch up to the GT2 car is going to be quite the experience for him, but he's up to the task and got great support, and looking forward to seeing how he does this year.
A moment ago, saw a glimpse once again of the Callaway Corvette, bright yellow race car that was shipped over from Germany. The Callaway program and ADAC GT Masters concluded a couple of months ago. That was announced, and that car was put in shipment, and it made it over here, but only in the nick of time. I think it made it through customs on Tuesday. It was a real stretch just to get here for that Mishu Motors crew and Mirko Schultes, who is driving it. And Mirko, a really interesting guy from Freiburg, Germany, who has a lot of experience in recent years running some of the races in the NASCAR Euro Series for this same team, although it's different personnel working on it here, but always in Chevrolets. And you look down his resume, Calvin, and it seems like every step of the way, with just a few exceptions, it's always Chevrolet powered. And he told me this fascinating story earlier this weekend. As a young man in Germany, he wanted to transport his dirt bikes, and he didn't have very much money, but he bought a Chevy Tahoe that for whatever reason had no roof on it. I didn't know they made them like that. And
Sounds like it's been in an accident.
Right. But he said he bought it for 1,000 German marks. I'm not sure exactly when this was, so I can't do the conversion for it. But that's Brian Putt and Rob Holland, actually. I didn't know Rob was involved, but there's his car. That's one of the new Caymans. That's disappointing, too, for Rob. But back to the Mirko Schultes story. He said from that moment on, he fell in love with Chevrolet. And he has run Chevrolet-powered cars or Chevy-built cars pretty much without exception ever since.
I bet when he rents a car, it's a Chevy as well.
You would think so.
He now lives here with his family just down the road in Sarasota, so he loves the U.S., has a lot of experience running on North American soil. Had a chance to chat with the Callaway competition director, Ernst War, last night when we were watching the final practice. Really nice man, has been running these Callaway since 2007, the ADAC GT Masters Championship over in Europe, and just a lot of love and a passion within that whole group. He's got 3 of his technical directors here helping operate the car this weekend. They intend to be here for every championship round, so it's a great addition to our series.
And Mirko, when I spoke to him, he was blown away by the professionalism of the series, looking around and seeing these teams, the big transporters, everything that goes into prepping a car for GT America powered by AWS. These are really high-performing race teams that field the cars across all the classes. And it came as something of a surprise to him, but he certainly was impressed, had his eyes opened by that. David Askew, driver-owner of DXDT Racing, back for more. Ran a partial season in GT America last year. That included the streets of Nashville, and wanted a part of this street festival as well.
Yeah, and with that team, they really went through a multi-car operation last year. I think at times they had 5 cars underneath their awning, and they've really toned things down a little bit for this year. And I think it's going to allow David, as the team principal, to really focus more on his driving. Talking to the team just this morning, they've been doing some testing over a Sebring, for example. He's 2 seconds faster than he saw lap times last year. So I think taking away some of that customer racing aspect that the DXDT team had gone to now allows David to really focus more on his driving. He's got Dirk Mueller, sensational GT driver from Germany, coming over through the Multimatic and AMG connection there to run in the GT World Challenge America 2-driver format championship later in the season. Brian Sellers is underneath the tent, working with Scott Smithson, who he's going to be co-driving with this year. So I think they've got a lot of really neat people in that group. Simon Morley recently with Starworks. A lot of the Starworks personnel have come over and helping that group. So they're really tuned things up a little bit in this off-season. I expect great things from that group.
Definitely a different look, though, like you say, under their tents. Not quite as busy as it was a year ago, but more focused, perhaps. And you add drivers like Dirk Mueller and Brian Sellers to your operation. It's not to in any way disparage the group that they had before. They had some excellent pros under that banner with Michael Cooper and Ryan Dial and others, but certainly it's a breath of fresh air to some degree, and a different approach to things. And I think you mentioned the connection, the Multimatic AMG connection that brings Dirk Mueller there. That really ought to pay some dividends.
A lot of smart people there. So I think sometimes you just need a reset. You can put a lot of superstars together, but sometimes for whatever reason it's not quite working, not quite gelling. Chemistry is not quite right. I think for David, he's such a solid guy in terms of running a team. He's driving, but he realized, well, I've now got customer programs. I need to focus on them, and then I'll get back to my own program. I think now is just going to be a lot cleaner, a lot simpler, and he should have some greater results this year.
Saw Justin Wetherill. That is a new team to the championship, Triarsi Competizione. They debuted in GT World Challenge America last year at Sebring and opened some eyes with their level of performance. They've been running Ferraris, though, for a long time in Ferrari Challenge. under the Ferrari of Central Florida banner, and Justin Wetherill has run with them the last several years. In fact, won a Copa Shell AM championship back in 2020. Last year, he was third in the Trofeo Pirelli AM2 class, which is a step above what he had run before, and parlaying that success and the familiarity with the Ferrari platform, albeit the Ferrari Challenge car is not the full GT3 spec car you see here, but still there is some similarity there, and Justin has really handled himself with aplomb here so far.
He's done a really nice job, and you talk about superstars. He's got Ryan Dial now underneath that tent. He's going to co-drive with him this year, and just really good group of people there, some strong engineering group, and they got Mark Shulman over there. Has a ton of experience with these Ferrari cars, and for Justin, he fell in love with Ferraris. He bought a Ferrari, had a very successful business, and he recently sold that and is now really focused on his racing. But bought a Ferrari from Triazzi here in Orlando, or just down the road in Orlando. Now he's running with that race team, and he said driving one of these GT3 cars, it's all about the rolling speed, just getting the confidence that you've got the grip and the downforce to roll the car through the corner. He said Ferrari Challenge car, great horsepower, but it's more of a stop, point it, and shoot off the corner type of car. You don't have the momentum that you can carry with one of these cars. So it's a big learning curve, and particularly on these streets. And
it's a proven platform. The 488, you'll recall, won the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli season finale at Kyalami not so long ago, and in doing so, it was the 107th win for the 488 platform, making it the most successful racing Ferrari in history. Lights off on the Ferrari safety car, and after a lengthy delay, we return to green flag racing. Jason Daskalos, remember, made the contact with the wall on the one green flag lap, so keep an eye on that Audi that's out in the lead. Scott Smithson, George Kurtz, Jason Harwood running lockstep right behind.
There you see those big white painted strips there on the taxiway, on the runway there that they've got to try and negotiate through without the ABS kicking in.
Clean and green so far. I think we saw Jeff Burton's damaged race car pulled off in the background, but that's in a safe area. They'll leave cars there from time to time until this race is over. Daskalos, though, has slipped up after getting that great start. Here comes Smithson, who's very new to GT3 racing. Lots of touring car experience, but looking really good, despite the fact he said this place was intimidating.
He did, and just got a little bit of experience, did some testing prior to the Indy 8 Hour last year, which he competed with the DXDTT team. And now he's back, did some testing at Sebring, but looks really solid, really confident. You can just see it in the language of the car. It doesn't look ragged, just really nice and smooth as he settles in here on this restart.
Right at the tail end of the line, the brightly colored Lamborghini flashing the lights. That is Jason Harwood.
This is Coleman in trouble. I think he's got a front left down, maybe see some debris. Now this problem for Harwood there into the brake zone for turn 13. Maybe he's trying to make a move there on Kurtz.
Wait and see if he's able to resume, but for the moment off track. Daskalos coming under attack. He's going a bit defensive on the entry to turn 1. Smithson putting some pressure on, but tucks back in line there through that tight turn 1.
One of the concerns for Jason coming into this race today, he says, his brakes. He felt it yesterday late in the practice session, starting to go away on him early in the run here, so it shouldn't be an issue, but he said brake fade, brake issues could be an issue for this Audi late in the going.
Top 3 covered by just over half a second, dropping back to the GT4 field. This is the leader, Derek DeBoer, for TRG, the Racers Group, longtime sports car entrants under that name. Kevin Buckler, the team owner, and he and Derek, they've been quite a partnership over the last half decade or so. Right behind, Moise Uretsky, looking very strong in his debut. That is this bright yellow, highlighter yellow almost, Toyota Supra, and right behind, Ross Schwest, who is back in the championship. This is their backup car. They had an engine issue earlier in the weekend.
Yeah, nice job by the team by rebounding, getting that backup car out there and up to speed, as he's now under pressure here from Radisic, who's very much out of position. Had an issue in free practice too, clipped the wall. They got the corner replaced, but he had a brake issue. It was a subsequent problem with that corner of the car when he got into qualifying this morning. Here comes a big late move by Kurtz. Can he keep it together? Washes wide. Smithson tries to rebound and retakes the position.
That was good patience there by Smithson to let that play out, and he was there poised to take advantage when Kurtz couldn't quite get it wound up. And actually earlier in this weekend, George had an incident in that spot.
There's a replay. Oh, he just got a bit too much curb there coming through there in turn 11. Tried to correct it, lost it, and clipped the end of the concrete wall. Big damage to that Lamborghini right there.
Oh, he was so close to missing the wall,
Yeah.
too. That's heartbreaking for Jason Harwood, the Zalus Motorsports team.
Well, we believe Dasklow's car must be up to snuff in terms of that clip that he had on the wall. Either that or he's just wrestling it around this racetrack. He said, I'm not a driver who's really big on data. He said the street circuits, oh, Kurtz's wide there, got in a bit too deep. ABS mag kicked in, washes wide, loses a lot of ground on the leaders. Getting back to Dasklow's, he said on a street circuit, it's all about just grabbing the car by the scruff of the neck and getting it around here. He said that's more in my wheelhouse.
He's been doing some Trans Am racing in recent years. Raced in the SRO paddock a couple of years ago, and then a partial season last year as well. But a longtime Pirelli World Challenge competitor, running out front at the moment, but Scott Smithson giving him all he can handle. That Mercedes looking very strong down the front straightaway.
Really menacing. The cars look pretty equally matched there down that front straightaway, but Smithson so far hasn't really made a big bold move. He's just biding his time. Got Brian Sellers on the radio talking him through this race scenario, when to attack.
Daskelos knows he's there, though. You've seen him take a few shallow entries to corners, protecting the inside line. This section of the racetrack, it's a sequence of 90-degree turns around Pioneer Park on the inside. The minor league soccer team, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, their stadium is just to the outside of that section as well, and out to this beautiful shorefront in the run through the kink and into a good passing zone right here.
It really is one of the prime overtaking opportunities. Here we're looking at Derek DeBoer. There's Radisic, he's now up to second. He's got around Uretsky. So the SRO Motorsport team is on the move here. Local driver based in Sarasota. He's got a lot of fans and family here as well this weekend.
He does. Here's a pass. In fact, this is how Marco got that second position.
It's a nice run out of turn 3, positions down to the inside. Nice and composed, classic move. Now he's going to try and attack the leader, Derek DeBoer.
Marco had to sit on the sidelines last year due to COVID restrictions and various other commitments. Hasn't raced since making 4 starts in Pirelli GT4 America across Sprint and Sprint X back in 2020, but the year before that finished 5th in Pirelli GT4 America's Sprint Am points, including 3 podium finishes. He is anxious to get back behind the wheel, not just of this race car, Calvin, but he's got a very ambitious plan to reset a world record he already holds.
Yeah, he does a 24-hour kart race, and he set a record of 947 miles, which is just craziness. He gets a break every 2 hours where there's a mandatory 4-minute stop and a couple of other bigger stops during the race, but he does the whole thing by himself. Middle of March, he's going to attack it again. Different race circuit over in NOLA in Louisiana, but basically 13 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine, trying to beat that record.
Unbelievable. He was telling us over the course of that 24 hours, he burned 16,000 calories.
It's just wild. I mean, karting is so physically demanding when you're behind the wheel on a bumpy little kart track. To do that continuously for 24 hours, just really a testimony to his fitness level. But right now he is closed in on Derek DeBoer. He's rolling a little bit more speed than Derek through that corner there, so got a chance. 16 minutes left on the board, but with a street circuit, you're never sure if you're going to get all of that time to work with, so you have to go on the attack early.
That's exactly what he's doing. Derek DeBoer driving defensively. Marco Radisic in the white BMW right behind the BMW M4 GT4 that moved to second just a few moments ago. Now peeking to the outside. This has been one of the strengths of this platform. Straight line speed. Look how hard he's on the brakes.
Yeah, car's dancing around there, just trying to set up. Derek there using his experience, keeps that car planted down the inside of the racetrack. But look at that BMW is able to roll a bit more speed. Derek is under pressure right now.
DeBoer, TRG out in front in GT4, but here comes Marco Radisic, looks inside, now peeks outside. Can't get the move done around Pioneer Park.
Real cat and mouse game here between two guys that have a ton of experience in these GT4 cars. TRG loves coming here at the streets of St. Petersburg. They always put on a great show both on and off the race circuit, but they're going to have to work really hard to maintain this lead. Up front, here comes Smithson down to the inside on Daskelos. Daskelos takes his car in super deep. Smithson tucks it to the inside. Side by side they accelerate. Smithson looking for the lead.
Scott Smithson on the outside, which becomes the inside here through this section of the track. Turn number 3. Daskelos gets out in the dust, but he's able to wrangle it back under control. Smithson has to fall back in line. Kurtz, though, right back into that fight for the overall lead as they catch the GT4 field.
Oh, this is where you got to really be patient here. Just try and set him up. What can Smithson do? Does the door open with this GT4 traffic immediately in front? He needs to back up. Now they clear the traffic. Kurtz is right there once again.
No place to hide if you're one of the GT4 cars, and the GT3 leaders catch you through turns 4, really through 9. It's just a tight, twisty portion of the St. Petersburg streets.
There's a lot of electronic aids, but there's no vanish button yet on the steering wheel, so it's really treacherous to be that slower car. Where do I go without getting yourself into the wall at the same time?
Should note that Jason Bell, after that good start, great qualifying effort, he's dropped back to 10th. Amanda checked in, and the team told her nothing wrong with the car, so not entirely sure what the story is there for the Tampa Bay native, who runs back in 10th in GT4, but all eyes on the front of this field. Jason Daskalos in the Audi, then a pair of Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evos, Scott Smithson, George Kurtz, and here's the back of the GT4 field, providing another challenge. This is mixed class racing at its best.
It is. Smithson needs to back it up and try and get a run off turn 3 here and try and make a move down into the turn 4 braking zone, but Daskalos does that himself to try and minimize that impact. Now he tucks into the inside of the traffic. Looks like all 3 are going to get through possibly. Kurtz is delayed now.
Yeah, that hurt George the most, no question about that. Now he's got to gather it back up and hope that traffic breaks his way and brings him right back into this mix a little bit later on, but he's got his hands full. That car has slipped out from under him a couple of times, Cal.
Well, he went really wide through the turn 4-5, so that was tight through that high-speed kink along Bayshore. Daskalos gaps Smithson a little bit, but Kurtz, when he went wide through that traffic, probably picked up a little bit of marbling on his tires, didn't have the grip for the next corner, nearly missed it.
That is Brazilian driver Custodio Toledo, and that Supra that has had his mirrors full of the GT3 leaders a moment ago. We drop back to GT4 and a new race leader. This is how it happened.
Radisic with a great run there. That's through that high-speed kink, tucked it to the inside. That's the nice thing about these GT4 cars. They can follow each other a little bit easily, more closely than a GT3 machine through that high-speed corner. Allows Marco to make the move into the brake zone. Nice job.
Now Derek Tabor slipping back to 2nd and coming under attack. Moise Uretsky, the Russian driver, right behind in that bright yellow Supra. 12 minutes to go on the streets of St. Petersburg, round number 1 of GT America, powered by AWS. Uretsky, who raced at MX5 Cup 1 year ago, making the step into GT4 competition, and someone who did that exact same step last year was John Jesbray. He went from that MX5 Cup car to a Supra and was really fast right away, so there's something to be said about that transition.
There really is, and something about that Toyota Supra as well. It's a great GT4 platform, very popular, as we said, over 20 cars now sold in North America, so Uretsky is starting to put the pressure on Tabor. Tabor very excited about his championship season, going to switch to the new Cayman for the next round of the championship. And also running Sprint X competition with his friend, Jason Alexandridis. And also a shout out to Derek's daughter, Ryan Ella Rose. She was 15 years old yesterday, so even though the family won't home, certainly shout out to her on her 15th.
Congratulations, what a racing family the DeBoers are. It's infrequent you see Derek without the family in tow.
But he's a family guy. They're typically here with him. But this battle is not going anywhere. Daskalos really runs wide coming out of turn 3. He's got to be careful with that. He obviously made the little mistake on the opening lap and clouded the wall. Smithson trying to regroup here, get back into his rhythm.
We've had about 20 minutes now to assess this fight. How do you see it stacking up over the final 10 minutes here, Calvin, with Audi versus Mercedes for the race lead?
Well, the Mercedes looks like it's a bit more planted. It's been that way throughout the course of this race, and we've got to think about how prophetic Jason Daskalos may have been in saying that my brakes may be an issue towards the end of a long green flag run. So these last 10 minutes could be crucial here in terms of defending that lead. Kurtz is there. Here comes David Askew. He's having a nice run, chasing after his old teammate from last year. They seem to always be on the same piece of the racetrack, at times magnets with one another.
10 minutes to go. Another update from the pits now with Amanda.
And it's all eyes on Marco Radisic right now as he leads the GT4 class. He started 19th on the grid when you look at the 11 positions he's gained here today. And of course, we've had those issues in turn 1, so survival has been part of that. But his team feels that Marco just really knows this car well. They said if he can just ease in here, settle into the race, they feel that the win will be theirs.
He does have a lot of experience in the M4 GT4. You're right about that, Amanda, that's for sure, but it's been a few years. Hasn't taken him long to knock the dust off Marco Radisic from that far back on the grid to the GT4 class lead. And ever since he's been able to make that pass on Derek DeBoer, he's just been pulling away. It was 2.5 seconds at the start-finish line last time by.
Well, he was the fastest man early yesterday. Then he had that bump with the wall coming out of turn 14, set him back a little bit. And I spoke to him this morning. He said, you know, I don't think I'd have been on the pole. I should have been a lot further up the grid. I should be able to make some moves. So this is a little bit surprising at the speed that he's showing. Not getting towards the front of the pack, but the fact that he's just streaking away from everyone right now. This is
basically the same precision driving tech team that he has owned and run for several years, but a different name now, SRO Motorsports, based in Sarasota, Florida. Evidently the airport code in Sarasota is SRQ, so that's where the name comes from. And they've got big plans with a program in Pirelli GT4 America as well.
Great little battle though. Uretsky really making this move up to GT4s. You see Derek DeBoer really dancing there in the brake zone there. For turn 4, feeling the heat from behind. TRG typically celebrate on top of one of these high rises with a big party on a Friday night. They'd love to be celebrating a podium, looking for the win early, but now just settling and trying to maintain that podium spot.
Very impressed though with Uretsky running third, first race in this car. Looking right at home, early in the going. Doesn't take long to adjust, it would appear.
Well, he looks really settled. Watched him yesterday in practice. Didn't look like he was showing this sort of speed, but right now he looks really calm. Car looks to be hooked up, and he's a fast learner, it looks like.
This is turns 13 and 14, heading back out onto the airport runway, and then that long drag down to turn 1 once again. For now, Derek DeBoer does seem to have enough of a gap where he shouldn't feel too threatened coming into the braking zone. Uretsky perhaps losing a bit of ground down the front straightaway.
Looks like the old Porsche Cayman there has a bit more speed. And here come the leaders overall, dancing their way through traffic once again. Smithson keeping Dascalo on us for the lead. Now, big bunch of traffic right here. What can Smithson do with this scenario?
Marking their way first around CJ Moses in the GT2 Audi, then Paul Sparta and the Random Vandals Racing BMW. Able to clear that.
Dascalo's in really deep there.
My thoughts exactly, Calvin. Very defensive. He knows his run was compromised and he wanted to cover off the zone of attack.
He has experience here, Dascalo's. Back in 2010, he ran a Viper here, so he can recall some of that circuit knowledge, even though it was many years ago. But he's a confident driver, loves his racing, totally committed to it. He's thinking about making a move to some new GT3 machinery for next year and maybe ramping up the whole effort. He's a little bit wide there. Saw that traffic up ahead of him, just trying to figure things out. Real chess match with all this overlap in class right now.
How much trust does it take for the overtaking car in the driver of the GT4 car you're about to pass, that you know that they know that you're coming, they know that you're there?
It takes a lot of trust, but we're early in the year, a lot of new drivers in this championship. You don't know what they're going to do. Will they maintain the same line that they typically do? Will they be erratic? Will they panic in that situation? So, yeah, putting that trust, particularly when you're offline around a street circuit where there's a lot of marbling.
Just made a pass around the 4th place running GT4 car of Ross Schwest, who now has Jason Bell right behind him. So whatever the problem for Jason was earlier has apparently been rectified. He's rallied to get back to 5th. Here's the leaders in GT4 now holding up the leaders overall.
Yeah, talking to Jason this morning, he said, you know, after going on a tear and winning the championship last year, winning 3 in a row, he said, oh, Dascalo's almost parked it there to try and get onto that back straightaway through turn 9. Smithson, if he can just back out of it a little bit and get a run, I think this traffic may be his opportunity. Dascalo's doing a pretty nice job.
Second place GT4 car of Derek DeBoer now splits the overall top 2. Smithson, as expected, powers by. This is George Kurtz running 3rd, final podium spot overall.
Smithson is really impressive. I think he and Brian Sellers together could be a really awesome Pro-Am combination in GT World Challenge America this year. Uretsky tugging into the draft of that Porsche Cayman. George Kurtz to the outside.
That's where all those marbles are that you talked about. David Askew has not given up in his pursuit either. Oh, and a spin here, Sean Whalen. This is the Zalus Motorsports GT4 entry. Able to rejoin, however. That's the good news. 4.5 minutes to go. Daskalos from Smithson by less than a second for the overall lead, and Marko Radisic leading by a pretty sizable margin now, as a matter of fact, over Derek DeBoer and Moise Uretsky in the GT4 class.
Well, the key is to maintain your rhythm, but for Marko, he really needs to think about, he's got a healthy lead here, time is running out on the clock, but sometimes if you back off, you lose that rhythm. Let's not forget what Ayrton Senna did way back when at Monaco, when he had a massive lead, backed off a little bit and just lost the victory late in the going.
He never was kind enough to do that when you were racing,
no,
did he? Of course not.
Amazing.
Great fight here, though. This is for 4th in GT4. We were looking at it a moment ago with Ross West trying to keep Jason Bell at bay. Daskalos has used this traffic well and built a bit of a gap, but this is the patience you need when GT4 cars are fighting with one another. Daskalos loses all that ground he had just built up.
Smithson needs to back out of a little, give himself a little bit more room to roll through the apex here in turn 3 with a bit more speed. He's just got to time things. See if he can set him up. Just read the traffic, read where Jason is going to be balked. Just try and get through one of these corners at your normal pace.
Smithson definitely caught out here, stuck behind 2 GT4 cars in a section of track in which it is very difficult, even with the pace advantage of GT3 relative to GT4, to make the pass. And look at the gap that has grown.
Oh, that's 3-4 seconds right there. Nothing you can do about it. If you catch traffic up in that sector of the racetrack, monster delta between the leaders right now.
Smithson does have some experience racing in a multi-class format. Oh, here comes...
Battle for the podium spot here between David Askew and George Kurtz.
But I was going to say, he, by and large, has driven in the lower class. When he was driving touring cars last year, there was a GT4 class above him. So it's a different prospect when you're in the faster class. It's a different skill set as well.
He'll be happy. It's a really impressive run for Smithson, but I'm already thinking about, well, he can do a little bit more, which is really a testimony to the pace he's shown.
Best fight on the racetrack might be this one. George Kurtz, CrowdStrike Mercedes from Riley Motorsports, up against his old team boss, the old team he raced for the last several seasons, David Askew and DXDT Racing, with just over 2 minutes left.
Well, I wonder what's going on inside the two helmets there. As you said, teammates last year. George electing to make the move over to Riley Motorsport for this year, with he and Colin Brown will be competing once again. The 2-driver lineup in GT World Challenge America. David's got a really solid group. A lot of expertise under that 10. They're looking to rebound with a stronger 2022 than what they had last year.
It's been a solid run for David. Solidly inside the top 5. Seemingly all race long, and he's not a guy with a great deal of street course racing experience. I think Nashville last year is it.
Yeah, and it's intimidating, and but this racetrack, it does open up through this sector. It doesn't really feel like a street circuit when you're rolling through here. It's more like a road course kind of feel. A little bit more like Cleveland when you get here, with the old airport runway circuit, which is a favorite of mine. Then a bit like Detroit when you get through the tight, twisty stuff here.
Tom Hansing waved the white flag for overall leader Jason Daskalos. That's the drop back to Smithson in second. Then the fight for 3rd and 4th overall. George Kurtz and David Askew coming through turn 3 for the final time in race 1 of the season. And the fight continues in GT4.
DeBoer just hanging on. Uretsky trying to set him up here on his final lap as well.
2nd and 3rd in the GT4 class. 2nd place, the blue Porsche of DeBoer, the bright yellow Toyota. That is Uretsky running in 3rd. Jason Bell and Ross West, that's for position.
He's absolutely flying, Jason Bell. Had that horrible first lap, got involved in the big schmozzle down in turn 1, dropped to the bottom end of the top 10. Now he's in the top 5 and looking for a bit more. He can see that podium up in front of him, but I don't think he's going to have enough time.
Back up front, the veteran Jason Daskalos, who had a couple of podiums last year but did not win, is 1 corner away from victory in the season opener. Jason Daskalos, the 50-year-old, for Daskalos Motorsports, takes the checkered flag and is the race winner of the first race of the 2022 GT America powered by AWS season. Scott Smithson, George Kurtz round out the podium. Then David Askew in 4th place, and here Ziad Gondor will come home, and your winner in GT4, Marco Radisic. Welcome back to the championship, Marco. A dominant performance.
That was superb. What a run by Marco Radisic there, and Derek DeBoer hangs on for that runner-up position for TRG.
Great fight throughout this field, as it was pretty much after that restart. We had the big incident in turn 1, lengthy delay, but it was worth the wait. Great multi-class racing. And 2 winners I cannot wait to hear from. Jason Daskalos overall, and in GT4, Marco Radisic. What a great drive to get to the front and then put his stamp on this race.
Really did, and if you think about it, everyone kept their nose clean. We obviously had the incident right from the green flag heading down into turn 1, but after that, everyone did a great job. There's only about 4 drivers in this field who have experienced this race circuit before. Some guys on their first pro race debut. As we see the fastest lap, that'll give him pole position for tomorrow. Goes to George Kurtz, probably the CrowdStrike fastest lap.
Indeed, that will give George some momentum into tomorrow, not just starting on pole, but knowing the car is capable of setting the fastest lap of the race. And he'll try to do what Jason Daskalos did today, which is take the green flag first and don't look back. Now, really cool as well to see the older generation Audi back in victory lane. And I was operating under the assumption that it was an Ultra, but it's even older than that.
That's
and
right.
That says something about what this championship is all about, bringing out all kinds of GT machinery into one single driver sprint race championship. These are the provisional results. Daskalos, Smithson, Kurtz, the overall podium. Askew and Gondor rounding out the top 5. Wetherill and Schultes in that Callaway Corvette 6th and 7th. Then 8th overall, the winner in GT4, Marco Radisic. Great performance for that SRQ Motorsports team. They pick up the win. Derek DeBoer and Moisey Uretsky, what a battle they had. I suspect the first of many this year to round out the GT4 podium. And then Ross Schwest rebounding for the blown engine in the primary car yesterday, losing some track time to come home 4th. Solid result.
Really solid. That's a great group, and Aaron Povoleto does a great job there. He's going to be his co-driver for the Sprint X competition this year, but kind of leading the team a little bit as well. So nice solid run for him. Further
Down the order, some of the newcomers and some that suffered misfortune in the race today. Those include Jason Harwood, big impact a little bit later in the race. Luckily, we were able to stay green, but that Zalus Lamborghini appeared to suffer significant damage. Jeff Burton, of course, in the early going, Chris Cognazzi, and others involved in that lap 1, turn 1 incident that put us behind the safety car for about 12 minutes or so at the start of this race. You could see the smile on Jason Daskalos' face through the helmet, which is saying something. Pulling the gloves off, and we'll be hearing from him here shortly. A dominant performance, pole to checkered flag for Jason Daskalos.
Yeah, superb run. Just didn't even flinch when he had that moment hitting the wall there, exiting turn 3 on that opening lap, and just really resisted the challenge from Smithson. Handled the traffic very, very well.
Let's hear from our race winners now with Amanda.
Well, Jason Daskalos picks up the first win of the GT America powered by AWS season. And Jason, I know we talked earlier today, but I just heard that it is the first race that your mother has attended of your race career. Was she the lucky charm here this weekend?
Yeah, she is a lucky charm. I mean, you know, she gets scared with me racing, so she said she was never going to come. So maybe 20 years later, she decided to come, and I'm so glad to have her here with my family.
Just want to talk about the race. Can you get, from your vantage point, just all the action at the front of the race? You got to get a healthy lead there at the end, but just the battle between you and Scott.
I tell you what, Scott's tough. He drove a great race. I just got lucky in some traffic. That was the gap that I made at the end of the race, but I give credit to Scott. He drove an amazing race, and traffic was definitely a key. It was tough.
It was entertaining for all of us. We look forward to tomorrow. Congratulations.
Solid performance from Jason. Ultimately brought home the win by half a second over Scott Smithson, who opened some eyes, I think, today.
He certainly did, and it's going to be a great battle tomorrow. Hopefully Harwood can get his car fixed and be back in the action as well, because I think he's got a ton of speed here.
There are a number of teams that have some work ahead of them, some heavy impacts, and that's the downside of the street course. It's a thrill, that's for sure. You're bringing the party to the people, and there's something to be said for that too. But when it goes wrong, it's rarely a small accident.
Yeah, risk management on any doubleheader weekend is obviously #1 priority in terms of the point situation and then having a car to compete on day 2.
Let's hear from more happy victors with Amanda.
Marco, we talked to your team during the race and said that your experience with this car undoubtedly saw you make up some extension of lead here. When you look at the race at hand and everything that happened in those first laps, and so how did you make it through?
You know, we really should have qualified a little higher. I hit the wall in practice too, and then when we went to qualify, I had a brake. Sorry, I had a brake line go on me, so I really qualified only with 3 wheels that were braking. So starting here from 8th, it's always hard to pass. The team did a great job putting the car back together. Really excited to be here with these amazing fans, and I'm in Sarasota, so it's my home race. My family's here and my friends, so it's really great, and great competition, a lot of great driving, but it was definitely a fun race.
You open up the weekend with the win. Is there any approach that you'll take differently tomorrow?
I think so. Definitely got to work on some things in the car, a little vibration here or there, but it's always a work in progress. So just happy. I'm going to take it in a little bit now with the crew and then work on the race for tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff for Marco. First pro race since 2020 after sitting out all of last year, and that's that big bright smile we've come to know from Marco.
Yeah, he's a great competitor, and he gives it 1,000,000%. And reflect back a few years ago when he was running a Ferrari here and had it burst into flames on him on the opening lap, so it's good to rebound with a win.
It is. This is the start to the race. It was going well until this moment. Chris Cognazzi, GT4 pole sitter into Jeff Burton. Heavy contact into the tire wall, and there were a number of cars involved in this incident. Brian Putt there on the left-hand side of the screen. Rob Holland also involved. This was an interesting moment. Dascolo survived that big hit with the wall.
He hit it pretty square, which was fortunate, because if he hit it at an angle, typically it's going to break a toe link or even break the rim, so he got away with one there.
There you see the remnants of the cars, and Jeff Burton walking away from one of the heavier impacts. This was the other. A little too much curve possibly for Harwood, and it spat him out into the concrete.
Yeah, I think he could have got away with it if he'd opened up his hands, but just pinched it a little bit, lost the rear end.
Good fight here. Ross Schwest a little bit further back in the pack. This was for second in GT4. And what a move it was to get the 22 machine up one more spot.
Yeah, Radisic was just on the charge, made that move on Schwest, then he took Goretzky, and this was for De Boer and the lead, and then he just took off.
From there, it was just racing to the checkers, and getting to the checkers first overall, Jason Dascalos. The Dascalos Motorsports team celebrates as they take the first overall victory of the 2022 season. And what a beautiful setting in which to kick off the championship, Cal. If that is indication for what we're going to see the rest of the year, we are in for a treat.
It was a fun one, and look for more tomorrow.
We'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to bringing it to you here from the streets of St. Petersburg.